I didn't think that Nancy Pelosi tearing up Donald Trump's speech at the State of the Union would make it this far into the month. I assumed the news cycle was going to die rather quickly. But the backfire was swift and it was bad. Many Democratic voters were calling into C-SPAN saying they were quitting the party and they were extremely embarrassed. It was so bad, in fact, freshman members of the Democratic Party in the House confronted Pelosi, which is extremely rare. And now Nancy Pelosi, in an interview, talked about why she did what she did. And I just got to say, man, I really do believe she was lying. It's obvious she can't walk back what she did, but it seems like she really wants to, saying, no, I didn't pre-rip the pages. I was just making marks so I knew what was where. And then you even have fact-checking organizations coming out in the defense of Democrats claiming a meme video made by Turning Point USA was in fact fake news because it was a highlight reel or something. Surprisingly, even though these journalists are defending the Democrats, they're still blaming the media for all of the bad press. But I think it's fair to say the Democratic Party is in complete chaos. We saw what happened in Iowa with the caucus. Well, we got another report coming out from Politico saying that Democrats are freaking out right now because they're going to be using another digital tool to run this caucus, and nobody's been trained for it. They got a bunch of old ladies being handed iPads. So I kid you not, they're saying they have no idea what they're doing. You would think at some point the Democrats would realize you cannot survive by making your entire identity orange man bad, and you need to offer up real solutions. Well, this is where I have good news for Democrats, because the Democratic Party, it's now being said, will focus on kitchen table issues. Thank you. And the response from Pelosi? They're actually weighing whether or not to do more investigations into Trump. I kid you not. We got so close to the Democrats realizing Orange Man Bad is a failing strategy. And now the news comes out today. More investigations are on the way. All right, let's get started by reading just how Nancy Pelosi is trying to spin her shredding of Trump's speech, which backfired horribly. And then we'll talk about the potential investigations and, for whatever reason, why the Democrats just can't learn. Come on, man. Take Yang's advice. He said, stop pretending Donald Trump is the cause of all of your problems. I guess they really don't have any substance. Well, here's the story from Town Hall. But before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, share this video. And also, I noticed many of you haven't subscribed. If you do like this video and want to see more, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and that way you can make sure YouTube actually lets you know when my videos go up. Because YouTube, believe it or not, has implemented some changes to negatively impact my channel and many other political commentators. So these are just some ways you can help. And again, subscribe. Do it. Town Hall says, Pelosi spins her impromptu SOTU shredding and places blame on the media. What I love about this is it's actually, various journalists ran to her defense, calling it a smart move to change the narrative. And she's adopting that talking point when it backfired miserably on them. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made waves when she shredded President Donald Trump's State of the Union address earlier this month. The next day, we learned that she planned to make a scene, as evidenced by video footage. She confirmed her desire for attention during an exclusive interview with CNN on Saturday. Here's a quote from Christian Amanpour. Are you giving a signal that the Democrats will fight back hard, that you will not be constrained by what you believe to be insurgent behavior on the other side, and that this is, a time to go mano a mano? That means hand to hand, I guess, right? Let me say this. I had no intention of doing that when we went to the State of the Union. In fact, I was well into past the first third of it. I'm a speed reader, so I was reading ahead, so I knew what was there. I got past about a third of it and thought, this is terrible, Pelosi explained. I'm going to call shenanigans right there. As far as I could tell, I didn't see her reading anything. I saw her looking through the papers, like briefly looking at it, and then she pre-tears them. Why? Probably to see if she could tear it in the first place. That's not what she's claiming, though. They say, according to the speaker, she decided to put little tears in the areas of pages she wanted to remember. You mean in the middle of all of them? That's what you wanted to remember? Oh, please spare us. She's so embarrassed by what she did. She's desperately trying to reclaim the narrative. Except each page had something she thought was rememberable. I made a niche on a couple of pages thinking, you ought to remember what was on this page. Then I realized most every page had something in it that was objectionable. So it wasn't a planned thing, but it was She rolled her tongue in her mouth, clearly looking for words before she changed the subject. She then changed the narrative, saying it's the press's fault that she had to resort to such actions. One of my disappointments is the fact that all we have done legislatively, whether it's equal pay for equal work, I'm sorry, Nancy, let me stop you right there. That's been law for decades, but let's read on. Raising the minimum wage, gun violence protection, issues that relate to our children, the list goes on. Climate action now, we have very little press on it, Pelosi stated. And it seems if you want to get press, you have to get attention. So I thought, well, let's get attention on the fact that what he said here today was not true. She is so bad at this. Trump is so good at this. Look, Trump knows how the press works. He's a personality and an entertainer who has manipulated the press for his entire life. He knows how to generate attention, and boy, does he do it well. He got $5 billion in free press in the 2016 campaign. You are not going to beat Trump at that game. If you want people to focus on your work, do not engage on nonsense. But Nancy, when you tear up the speech, you completely shut down any conversation about anything policy-wise. This is a desperate cop-out, as if it's the media's fault for not covering what she's been doing when she does things like this. We all knew this was premeditated. It was obvious Nancy was doing this for attention. If she wasn't, she wouldn't have ripped the speech up in sections. She would have continually turned as she ripped the papers so that every camera saw her. If her actions are because of a lack of press, what newspapers is she reading? What news station is she watching? Because leftist media continually covers climate change and minimum wage proposals, and gun violence prevention is something that's covered widely across the board. The left covers it as a national health crisis. Those of us on the right point to the policies and continually talk about the Second Amendment infringements. Nice attempt at spinning, Nancy, but we see through your BS. While I don't completely agree with everything Town Hall is saying on this, I do for the most part. Nancy Pelosi had a tantrum, and she regrets it. And that's what she's doing now. But of course, there's been a terrible, terrible backfire. And I would be remiss not to at least mention this a little bit. Ronna McDaniel of the GOP is taking advantage of the C-SPAN callers. That I talked about this, last week. Many of you probably saw it. Democrats are blasting Pelosi and her colleagues for their pettiness at State of the Union. They look like they hated our country. I will never vote Democrat again. Our party has been stolen by a bunch of communists. And this is from almost 2 weeks ago. But of course, Democrats need to place the blame somewhere. So they are now joining the ranks of the media bashers. As Pelosi already stated, it's the media's fault for not covering all of their accomplishments. I mean, no, the media takes what it takes. And when you give them a temper tantrum, they'll run the temper tantrum. You actually shifted the narrative away from what Trump was talking about onto your pettiness, and it backfired in your face. So, of course, now they're going to blame the media. But the Democratic establishment is actually in a bit of trouble because youth media and digital media that covers national issues, they're actually going far left. And that's what this is basically talking about. So in this regard, I'll actually throw the Democrats a bone. Listen, you've got the establishment press on your side. Don't play any games. We all get it. But the new digital media is totally on board for the far left, be it Bernie Sanders or otherwise. Now, that presents a huge problem because I don't know if you saw the video from the other day or the video I did this morning. Activists stormed Bernie Sanders' stage and stole the mic from him. And I kid you not, it was a young woman who probably weighed half of what Bernie Sanders weighed, and he couldn't stop her from taking his mic. So while the far left does champion Bernie, he does surround himself by these crazies. And the Democrats in the old guard, the older Democratic establishment, are losing a grip when it comes to larger national stories and Twitter, and they're getting jammed up by it. I mean, look, AOC has 6 million plus followers on Twitter, way more than all of these establishment Democrats, and there's nothing they can do about it. But let's not, let's be real here. As much as the Democrats want to pass the buck onto the media because they're mad about what they did, or Pelosi's mad about what she did, check out this fact check. Trump's misleading posts on Pelosi ripping up SOTU address. This is from about a week ago. Factcheck.org actually claimed that a video that was meant to be like a package showing the various points of Trump's speech and then creating a meme, essentially, around Pelosi ripping it, they say it was false. I'll tell you what happened. Most of you probably know, but I want to bring this back up. The video shows various things Trump was saying, good things. And then every time he does, it shows Pelosi ripped the speech. They weren't trying to convince people that Pelosi ripped the speech identically the same way every time and had multiple copies of the speech. But the media plays games like this. I pointed it out earlier. They'll do something like, did Nancy Pelosi actually rip up Trump's speech, several times? And then they'll claim all of the statements by everyone pointing out she did. They'll say it's false, not true, never happened. At the bottom of the story, it'll say, while she did actually rip up the speech, she only did it once, because most people don't know what's happening. So you know what? I'll blame the media all day and night. It's the game they play. Pelosi is now playing games with CNN, who probably don't give her any real pushback and don't challenge her at all, and let her just pretend like she did it on purpose. What Nancy Pelosi is saying about ripping the speech, trying to get attention, was an activist talking point, and she was probably panicking after the blowback. But of course, she's super petty, and this is the level we're at. Still, on February 16th, it never ends. Somehow we're still in the same news cycle. Don't get me. Newsweek reports, Trump wasn't acquitted because there was no proper trial, says Pelosi. He's impeached forever and not vindicated. That's how petty the Democrats have become. It's over. Get with the program. We just saw numerous outlets the other day saying Trump has become unstoppable, but Pelosi is just so petty she can't give it up. So much so that she's still bringing up ripping up the speech as if it was a good thing to do, but it wasn't. Now, I got to be honest. I saw this story here from the New York Times, and I actually had a bit of hope in my heart that she finally learned her lesson. Stop playing the media game with Trump. You will never win. Start talking about real issues like healthcare and jobs. And if Trump tries to bait you, just don't say anything. But I got to be honest. At the State of the Union, Trump didn't bait her with anything. He just gave a speech and talked about his accomplishments and what he liked, and she had a temper tantrum. That was the mistake. She's not focusing on this. It's not the media's fault. They're helping you. And it's not Trump's fault. He gave his speech. Now, you might be thinking, Democrats plan to highlight healthcare and jobs over investigating Trump. They say, with impeachment behind them and an eye on November, Democrats appear to have decided that focusing on President Trump's norm-shattering words and deeds only elevates him. Oh, thank you. Oh, they finally learned. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Wait a minute. What's this? Democrats weigh whether to pursue new investigations as election looms. Some call for probe into Roger Stone's sentencing, while others are wary of another drawn-out fight with the White House. You were so close. You were so close. Just stop. You're still so close. You don't need to do this. But of course, I'll tell you what. I actually predict it's going to move forward because there is no real Democratic Party right now. You remember before impeachment happened? Ocasio-Cortez tweeted the real scandals. The Democrats won't impeach Trump. And then as soon as Nancy Pelosi moved forward, AOC at an event said, oh, I'm totally over it. Who cares? And it's like, oh, stop listening to these people. There's no leadership. That's the real issue. Nancy Pelosi is not a leader for her party. She can't direct them to do anything. No one wants to agree with her anyway. Adam Schiff is going to do whatever he wants. He's still investigating Trump. And it doesn't matter if Nancy Pelosi comes out and says yes or no. She resisted impeachment in the first place, but she is too spineless to actually do anything about it. Did you know that there was a poll done in 2018? Half of Democrats said she needs to go. She really, really does. Not just for policy reasons. She just doesn't know what she's doing. Well, I want to show you this New York Times story a little bit because the story itself is actually still kind of sad because they still kind of admit Democrats haven't learned anything. They report House Democrats recovering from their failed push to remove President Trump from office are making a sharp pivot to talking about healthcare and economic issues, turning away from their investigations of the president as they focus on preserving their majority. They're not going to. It's too late. Impeachment was a mistake. Top Democrats say that oversight of the president will continue, and they plan in particular to press Attorney General William P. Barr over what they say are Trump's efforts to compromise the independence of the Justice Department. But for now, at least, they have shelved the idea of subpoenaing Mr. Trump's former national security advisor, who was a central figure in the president's impeachment trial. I got to say, this is actually good news. It's good news if you're tired of the complete BS. It's good news if you're a Trump supporter. They're backing down, stopping the scandal nonsense. Actually, no, I think it's bad news for Trump supporters. Impeachment helped Trump. The Kavanaugh effect helped Trump, helped Kavanaugh, helped Republicans. I mean, Trump is raising record money. You kind of want that to continue, right? So finally, the Democrats are doing the right thing. Though Pelosi can be petulant and petty, at least now they're saying this. In a series of private meetings over the past week and in written instructions, she distributed to lawmakers Thursday before a recess this week, Nancy Pelosi made clear the emphasis must shift. Healthcare, 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 the speaker said, describing the party's message during a recent closed-door meeting, according to a person in the room who insisted on anonymity to reveal private conversations. She said they had to be laser focused on getting reelected. When you make a decision to win, then you have to make every decision in favor of winning. You know, I'm going to give her some credit. I don't think Pelosi is necessarily the problem. She seems to have defended the right thing in the past, but kind of spiraled out of control as things fell apart. Maybe the reason she tore up the speech wasn't really about Trump, but her general frustrations with being a failure. And I don't mean it like general. I mean, she's won her seat over and over. But I mean, these past few years, everything she's done against Trump has been a failure. And she should have told them no to impeachment. She initially did. She relented. Perhaps she's mad at herself. Well, of course, we're still sitting in the same world of impending investigations, because literally on the same day she's talking about healthcare, the story comes out from the Wall Street Journal that they're going to do the same thing over and over again. Which brings me to this story from the New York Post from Miranda Devine, who says that the myth, she says, the moment was when the myth of the master political strategist was busted. And we saw Pelosi, 79 for what she was, pretending to be classy and prayerful when she is full of petty hatreds and is incapable of holding her party together. A woman who parades her Catholicism while advocating no-holds-barred abortions, feigning to pray for the president while deriding him as sedated. As the leader of the Democrats, until they select a presidential candidate, Pelosi is everything that is wrong with the party. She told reporters that ripping up the speech was a very dignified act, the courteous thing to do, considering some of the other exuberances within me. But her petulant vandalism was the opposite of courteous, quite obvious. And now, well, now there's just bad news for Democrats moving forward. They may decide to back off the investigations, which in my opinion would be very, very smart to do. But because of everything you've done, the backfire is yet to get as bad as it can be. Now it backfired. Like we saw those Democrats quitting. But what do you think comes next? Well, first, this is the wrong article, but I'll bring it up anyway. Pelosi still thinks Joe Biden is in. I don't know what. She's not. She is anything but a master strategist. But what I wanted to get to was the fact that Trump and his allies are now going to be going after their own investigations. You opened the door for this. It didn't have to be this way. Trump wasn't publicly speaking about the Bidens until they decided to do the impeachment and started dragging Joe Biden out into this. What ends up happening? Well, I can't tell you why Joe Biden flopped miserably. Maybe he really was the front runner. Maybe I was wrong about that. And maybe the reason he dropped so dramatically is because Democrats couldn't help but parade around the Biden allegations to go after Trump. One of the stupidest things they could have done. They don't realize the press attention flows both ways. Yes, you accuse Trump of wrongdoing, but not everyone is going to be a diehard Democrat to believe you. Some of them ended up hearing the allegations against Joe Biden. And now, yes, it's time to count Joe Biden out. Of course, Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to do that. She wants to keep thinking Joe Biden can win. But regardless of what she thinks, she's wrong. And this to me shows she's not a strategist. She's floundering. She should have never inherited the party. She should not be speaker. She should not be the leader. It's time for her to step down. Someone else needs to come in because she's been nothing but a disaster for the Democrats. And it's not just her. I was thinking of doing this as a lead segment, but in reality, it just shows the state of the Democratic Party. Shambles, pure chaos. Iowa was a nightmare. New Hampshire was pretty much okay. But now we have this story from Politico. Quote, a complete disaster. Fears grow over potential Nevada caucus malfunction. Volunteers complain of poor training for a vote reporting system that was adopted on the fly. The Iowa app Democrats use failed. Some people think it was a conspiracy. Man, I don't care about that. It just failed. The Democrats are inept, as evidenced by Nancy Pelosi's actions and everything she's done and said. But now they're apparently being handed iPads. You've got apparently there's these old women being handed iPads and they have no idea how to use them. They say the iPads weren't discussed until more than halfway through the presentation, the volunteer said. When someone asked how early vote totals would be added to the totals compiled live at each precinct, the person leading the training said not to worry because their iPads would do the math for them. Ah, I can trust that. the Democratic establishment handing out iPads that will do all of the math for you. So don't worry about when they say that Pete Buttigieg wins, right? Do you guys remember what happened in 2016 in Nevada with apparently the police had to come in, then the DNC kicked out Bernie delegates to give Hillary the majority? Yeah. Here's a quote. There were old ladies looking at me like, oh, we're going to have iPads, the volunteer told Politico. After sitting through the 2-hour training session, the person predicted the caucus would be a complete disaster. And why am I not surprised? You know, Trump united the Republicans, and it's working out for them really well. They're getting everything they want. The wall is being built. Trump is appropriating more money for it. He's curbed illegal immigration. I mean, immigration in general. The economy is doing great. I don't see how he loses unless Republicans just don't come out at all and sit around thinking they can't lose. Maybe let's play a conspiracy game. What if everything Pelosi is doing is, in fact, a masterstroke? You see, by pretending to be completely inept and failing every step of the way, allowing Trump's approval rating to skyrocket and fundraising to come in record amounts, she's lulling Republicans into a false sense of security so that come November, the Democrats can pounce. And they will come out in record numbers with a top secret blue wave strategy that will leave Republicans floundering. Yeah, no way. The simple solution suggests they're just completely inept and flopping around with no unity whatsoever. So who's going to win? I don't know. But it's becoming increasingly likely, at least according to 538, the Democrats are headed for a contested convention, which means Bernie will probably win most of the delegates. The convention will be contested. The superdelegates will step in and hand it all to, I don't know, Mike Bloomberg or something, or Pete Buttigieg. I don't know who's going to get it, but I don't think it matters because of how insane everything's been so far. So look, ultimately, what can I really say other than what I've said 50 million times? The reason Pelosi is coming out and speaking on, with Christiane Amanpour, in my opinion, is because she knows people are really mad she did it, and she's trying to justify it and maybe give some people a reason to stay behind her. They're probably not going to, though. The people who are saying they're quitting the party are doing it because she tore it up for whatever reason. Now she's trying to say, but the media wouldn't cover our great accomplishments, so I had no choice. Not buying it. I think you just made a big mistake, but hey, whatever. I'll leave it there. I think there's only so many videos No, I'm going to stop myself. I wanted to say there's only so many videos I can do about the Democratic Party being in complete shambles, but then I thought, nah, I'm pretty sure something will happen next week and we'll be here all over again. They're already panicking. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I've got 58 videos saying Democrats panic. Do I really want another one? Ugh, eye roll. But they are. What do you want me to do about it? This is from Politico. Politico's not a conservative outlet, and they're calling Nevada an impending complete disaster. Whatever, man. I'll see you all in the next segment at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out.